In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the light tanks in Battlefield 1 and focus on the flanker tank and the Howitzer tank. These two are the best light tank variants by far in my opinion, but choosing which one to take can be quite the debate. I'll showcase a load of gameplay in the background. I've used both these tanks extensively in pretty much all game modes on Battlefield 1. Whether it's Frontlines, Operations or Conquest, I can let you know what the best choice is in each situation and some tactics that you should employ when using them. If you do enjoy the video, please leave a like down below and let me know anything that I may have missed to do with these tanks in the comments. So for those of you that don't know, the FT-17 light tank is a one driver tank with a moderate speed. It's not the fastest tank on the game, but it certainly isn't the slowest. You have three different variants to choose from: the flanker, the howitzer, and then the normal variant, the close support. I really prefer the flanker and howitzer. I used the close support when the game first came out and couldn't really get used to it. It doesn't offer anything that the other two can, and if you are choosing to go with a close support loadout, I would recommend taking a different tank altogether, because some of the others like the A7V and the Shaman can do a better job at doing that close support work, while the flanker and howitzer offer something completely different with the FT-17. Now obviously the biggest thing that the FT-17 offers is size. You're a very small tank, you can get down certain corridors and through certain gaps that the other tanks can't. This is mostly evident on Amiens. You can see in the background I've got some gameplay here. You can fit through the small corridors, surprise enemies and do all sorts of flanking maneuvers and damage. Very useful on Frontlines and Conquest. Operations, it is useful, but as that's more of a game mode where you are having to go face on to the enemy, flanking can be done and can be very useful, but in the tank not so much in my opinion. On Frontlines the light tank is an absolute beast. So focusing on the light flanker tank first. This thing was nerfed a little bit in one of the patches, but mostly it is unchanged since the beta. Not that many people used it in the beta because the howitzer was so OP, but if you were to use it you'd realise that it is probably the best anti-infantry variant of tank on the game. It's also a very good all-round tank if you get used to the 25 mils. Although you only get 15 shells, you can do a lot of damage to enemy armour, and assuming that you're good with your positioning, you can really avoid getting shot at all. The HE shells have a very useful small explosive AoE, making them great versus people in cover, and that is something that you'd see in Battlefield 4 with the LAV if you're using the 25 mils. It's very similar to that. They also have very good range. If you can master the drop on them, you can do a load of damage at things in the distance. And of course, if you're looking to just purely take out infantry or maybe even planes, you can switch to the canister shell. Again, it uses the same 15 shell magazine, so you have to be careful with your reloads, but you can do a hell of a lot of damage with those things if you're purely looking to farm infantry. The abilities you get with this tank are the anti-tank mines and mobility restore. Mobility restore is very useful if you get disabled. This means when you're shot in the side and maybe your track's disabled or you get shot and you get down to a low HP, so then your tank almost is ready to explode, you can hit this mobility restore and then you can escape. The anti-tank mines are very, very useful on virtually all maps for taking out other armour. You can use them a lot of the time to bait enemy tanks in, and then you could even shoot the mines at a later date and get a large explosion, and again, it's a lot easier to get kills that way. You can see in the background some gameplay where I've used the mines. I die to mines every so often on BF1 as well, even though I'm so used to looking at them because I've tanked so much in Battlefield games. You can't see them that easily in BF1, they're hidden very, very well. Even on maps such as Amiens, where it's quite open and light, you just can't see them.
Ooh. JPEG me.
Oh lol, I killed their tank. He drove over the mines I set earlier as a trap.
Now, a strategy to employ with the flanker tank: it's a very busy tank. It's a tank that you need to put a lot of effort into. You can't just sit there and farm as you can with some of the bigger tanks like the A7V or maybe the artillery truck. With the flanker tank, you've got to be moving around a lot, and you've got to be getting used to your surroundings and understanding what's all around you. Be in third person as much as you can, and make sure that you've got to grips with the drop on both HE shells and the canister shell. Something I would recommend doing with this tank a lot is play it as if you don't have a turret on the top of it. I know it has a turret that can shoot behind you, but if you play very aggressively and get people behind you shooting you in the back, you're going to die very, very quickly. What I would do is try and keep all the enemies in front of you for the most part, flank as much as you can, and then if someone was to shoot you in the back, you do have the luxury of a turret to turn around and shoot behind you. If you go flying on into an objective and thinking, I've got a turret, I can just spin around and shoot everybody, you're going to die because the tank doesn't have that much health. So what I would suggest doing, as I said, is keeping as many enemies in front of you as possible. A very useful trick with this that not a lot of people know, if you shoot the ground, you can make a crater with the HE shells, you can drop your mines in it. You can do a similar tactic with the artillery truck, but the RT truck tends to get stuck in craters a little bit. This is very, very useful because that crater can then be your get out of jail free card. So when there's an enemy tank pushing you, you can almost move around the crater and then he'll drive through it and he'll blow up. There's little tricks like this that will really help you in battles against other bigger tanks. If you are an infantry player and you see a flanker tank, you're in a lot of trouble. There's not much you can do against this tank if it has got its sights on killing you. The anti-infantry potential is through the roof on the flanker tank. So what I would suggest doing is trying to rush it with maybe 3 assault players at once, anti-tank grenades, and aim at the tracks as much as possible. As everyone knows with the light tank, the rear of it and the turret of it are slightly stronger. They are the heavier armor, so you cannot shoot that and expect to get a lot of damage. As a driver, you may choose to drive this tank in reverse because, as I said, the back of it is very, very strong. That is up to you, but I feel as though I like to have the strong part on the back in case I get shot in the back when I'm not looking, because it offers that little bit of protection. Now moving over to the light howitzer tank. This howitzer tank in the beta was insane. It was literally the best tank in the game, by far the best tank I've ever seen in a Battlefield game. It would just flatten buildings with one shot and you were going on 100 kill streaks before you knew it. They have nerfed the hell out of this tank. First of all, the howitzer shell itself has had a lot of damage taken away from it. I've mentioned this in other videos. You also don't get the full turret. The tank has been limited to a very low range. The turret, you can't do a full 360 turn, which is a shame, but it does mean that you just change your playstyle up a bit and still be effective. Now, the main thing with this tank that I would say is the howitzer shell itself. It will destroy any tank on the game. It's the strongest shell. It is insanely powerful, even against the massive A7V and landship. It'll do a load of damage. It's got a lot of drop, as you can tell from the background. Mastering that drop, which is something I've been practicing a lot, is very difficult, but it is completely possible. Especially on a game of Frontlines where the map isn't that big, this tank is mega effective. You are also given a machine gun, very useful for anti-infantry. It can do a lot of damage against multiple enemies. You can take a load of them down. Again, examples are in the background. I wouldn't say it's as good as the canister shell with the flanker tank, but then again, you don't have the trouble of reloading, you just have to worry about overheating. Now when looking at the howitzer cannon again, remember you only get 4 shells, so you can't use it as you would an AP shell in BF4 where you drive around and shoot everything. You have to be very selective with what you shoot, so I reserve it for enemy tanks. If I've killed the enemy tank and I know there's not going to be another one, then I can use it to destroy buildings, maybe destroy a bit of cover, that sort of thing, but I definitely don't use it for anti-infantry unless I have to. It's also very useful in this tank to have a friendly assault or support player with you to help with spotting enemy tanks. Have them on comms, they'll tell you where the enemy tank is, you can go straight, make a beeline for the tank, go straight for the tank, take him down with the howitzer shell, and then you're helping your team that way. I use this tank as a pure anti-tank measure. On front lines, I get the enemy tank taken out immediately and then set to work on infantry, while with the flanker, I'll spend most of my time killing infantry and avoiding the enemy tank, shooting him when he's weak. 2 different tanks for 2 different playstyles. Now when looking at the howitzer's abilities, you get defensive smoke and quick repair. Quick repair is what it seems, you just get a boost of health. I use this as much as I can. Even if I'm on 90 HP, I will use quick repair to get back to 100 and then it recharges. If I'm in a tank battle, I will save it in case I get disabled, or maybe use it at the very start of the battle and then it will have recharged before the end, so I get to use it twice in a battle. It's up to you. It's quick repair. It does exactly what it says on the tin. Now with your defensive smoke, this is something people don't use enough in Battlefield 1. Smoke is incredibly useful. Check out this push onto the objectives on front lines and look how important that smoke was to holding down that objective. Smoke can be used to help your teammates push up with you. You'll notice in BF1 that infantry don't push unless there's cover. They don't like running across open ground because of the amount of snipers. So when I'm driving the tank, I want to push an objective, I'll be aggressive, I'll push forward, I'll smoke, I'll then reverse, and the whole team pushes up. It's a natural push from the team. They don't mind pushing through smoke. Very, very useful, and that's what makes this tank almost more aggressive than the flanker tank at times, even though it doesn't have the same sort of aggressive loadout. If you are looking to take out the light howitzer tank as an assault player, as you can tell from this little clip in the background, it's very, very easy to get behind them and there's not much you can do. I'm having to reverse all the way back into my own base to deal with these guys because I cannot turn. With the flanker, I'd have done a quick 180 with the turret and shot them in the face. With the howitzer, I cannot do that. That is how you kill this tank. You flank it as much as you can, try and disable a track, maybe get it to reverse over some mines. Now, a couple of tips for the FT-17 light tank itself, doesn't matter what loadout you are picking. You need to set your FOV as large as possible. As you can tell, I've got it on maximum. This means you can see the most around the tank. Very, very useful, and I definitely suggest doing it. I'd also suggest checking you know where the reticle is. In first person, it is in a different position to third person. If you're shooting somebody in third person, you'll often notice your bullets aren't going where the reticle is. That's because DICE have messed that up a little bit. You need to get used to that and make sure that you have basically checked where the bullets are going to be firing. You'll notice this next time you go into a game, just check it out. Also, make sure that you've got to grips with the two different features or utilities you get with each tank, whether it be the mines and the quick repair, or the health boost and the smoke you get with the howitzer. Both are very, very important. So overall, this is what I would recommend with the flanker and the howitzer. If you're looking for anti-tank, the howitzer is the best. If you are looking to play front lines and help your team the most, the howitzer is the best. If you're looking just to destroy buildings and flatten the map, the howitzer is the best. If you're looking for the most skilled tank on the game, I would say it's the flanker tank. It requires the most skill in terms of taking out enemy armor because you have the weakest primary weapon, but you do also have the canister shells and you're super effective against infantry. For kill farming and getting the highest score, the flanker is probably the best. They're both very, very useful. In my opinion, they are both the best tanks in the game, depending on what you want to do. You come up against me in any other tank on this game, the howitzer will kill you if I've seen you first. There is nothing you can do about it unless you have multiple people repping you. The tank does so much damage. I have the quick repair, I have the smoke, and I can fit in places that your big tank can't. If you are taking an A7V, I'm probably going to kill you. If you're taking anything else, I'm probably going to kill you. And that's not to do with me being good, it's just the fact the tank is that powerful. If I'm in the flanker tank and you push me in an A7V, I wouldn't really expect to survive unless you drive over my mines. That's the difference. If you do have anything extra to add to this video, please leave it down below in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next episode.